Integrity Sports Podcast, powered by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. They can also haul rock and sand. They can do driveway work and can even do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria. Want you to come by and be a part of the show with us tonight. Glad to have a few guests with us now. I'm Tim Estes. I'll be your host along with our co-host, Scott Westbrook. And each week we review the previous week's high school football games here in Southwest Georgia. And we preview the upcoming games for Southland Academy, Sumter County High School, and Schley County High School. This is week 7 of the high school football season. Let's take a quick overview of the 3 teams that we focus on. Sumter County High School currently is 2-2. They have already had both of their bye weeks for the season, and Coach Will Rogers and his staff have the Panthers moving in the right direction. They'll host Cook High for homecoming this week. Schley County is 5-0. Ranked number 1 in the GHSA Class A Division II rankings, and they'll travel to Chattahoochee County tomorrow night. Southland Academy is 2-3, and they will host 4-0 Terrell Academy this coming week. Scott, looks like it's going to be a good week of high school football here in Southwest Georgia.
It is. We're over the midseason hump now. It's going downhill. A lot of the teams are on the backside of their schedule. You sit there, you did say about Southland's going to play Terrell County. Terrell County's coming off a huge win. They beat Deerfield Windsor. We all know Deerfield Windsor struggling this year. But what was important about that game is that a lot of the players, all the players actually in the game, none of them were born the last time Terrell County beat Deerfield Windsor. That was back in 2001. Right? And Terrell, even though Terrell seems to be much better team this year than Deerfield Windsor, there was still that psychological hump they had to get over. It wasn't a big win. So we'll see how that plays in when they face Southland this week. Sumter County, big surprise. We've talked about that every week, but I think it's a big surprise to everybody except Coach Will Rogers and those players. Yeah. I think they prepared this summer. They put together a good game plan, and I think they're going to do the same thing this week. And like you said, the follow up the Schley-Macon game. I tell you, we are what a phenomenal, exciting, great night. The gate that they had that night with all the fans that came in, they probably made enough that very night to pay the PA announcer's salary for the whole year.
I would guess you're right.
That's what I'm thinking. So I know that Gabe Tice will breathe a sigh of relief on that too. So, but yeah, let's get into it.
Scott, we had one game last week within our focus group. That was the Schley County game. They defeated number 2 Macon County by a score of 34-7. While that win wasn't a surprise, I'm not sure many felt like the margin of victory would be that wide.
No, me most of all. There was a few people that predicted it. Now, I want to apologize to everybody. I've got this cough drop in. I'm on the tail end of some tuberculosis or something, and I don't want to be coughing, but so you will hear a cough drop jostling around in my mouth a little bit. But yeah. That game, and you're about to go over everything, but one of the key elements of that game, it was 14-0 before Macon County even took their first offensive snap.
Right.
So when you sit there and you're in a game that big and that pivotal, and your offense steps on the field and you're down 14-0, that is a pretty deep hole to dig yourself out of.
You got it. Leave it to Scott Westbrook to come up with the obscure stat. So that's pretty interesting that nobody was born that played in the Deerfield Terrell Academy game the last time Terrell Academy beat Deerfield. That's pretty neat. Scott, we're going to start this week with the Schley County Wildcats. As we mentioned, They defeated Macon County 34-7. That pushes the record to 5-0. The GHSA rankings came out again on Tuesday, and Sly County remained in the number 1 spot in Division II. This one was exciting from the very first play of the game when Jay Kanazawa hit Jalewis Solomon on a screen pass, and Jalewis took it 76 yards for the touchdown. On the next kickoff, Carson Westbrook forced a fumble that the Wildcats recovered, and a few plays later, 5-star athlete Zayden Walker took it into the end zone. And quickly, before Macon County had one offensive possession, Sly County was up 14-0. In the second quarter, Macon County quarterback Brian Harris found wide receiver Amari Shelley streaking down the sidelines on a long pass play, and that set Macon County up inside the 5-yard line. Amaji Patterson would score on a short run, and it was 14-7. And at that point, you kind of felt like it was going to be a game. But from that point on, it was all Wildcats. Kanazawa would find Sam Forehand in the end zone for a touchdown pass that made it 21-7. On the next possession, Jay would hit Carson Westbrook on an 18-yard pass to get the ball inside the 5 once again. 2 plays later, there goes Zayden Walker, and he went into the end zone for another touchdown. Sly County led it 27-7 at the half. In the fourth quarter, Walker would once again carry the ball a few yards into the end zone and make the final score 34-7. Sly, while the offense was clicking, the story of the night, Scott, I thought had to be the defense. Inside linebacker Jack Clark was our player of the game. I'm not sure exactly how many tackles he had. It was a bunch, and a lot of them were the kind that make the crowd go, ooh. A lot of fun to watch him. Carson Westbrook picked up another interception. He's now the career leader in interceptions, and congratulations to Carson on that honor. Defensive lineman Wyatt Halstead had a sack and several tackles. A guy we haven't talked about a lot, Scott, was our cornerback, Tyrese Cook. Thought Tyrese really had a breakout game against Macon County. He also picked up an interception, and the defense was just lights out. Guys like Ethan Sellers, he had a key sack on third down. It was a lot of fun to watch.
It's funny. I read your script when you sent it out, but I'd listed a bunch of the same guys you did on defense. I think what surprised Macon County and it surprised a lot of their fans and our fans to an extent was how physical Sly County was against Macon County. Because when you see them line up against each other, you don't think that Sly County is going to be able to take the upper hand in the physicality. We're going to have to outrun them. And but Jack Clark just led the charge with that. Ethan Sellers, Tyrese Cook, Wyatt Halstead, Dedrick Thornton. I wrote down all these names of these guys who decided they were going to get more physical, and they did. I don't know what the coaches told them. I don't know what they what got them going, but I think that probably surprised Macon County and their fans more than anything else was how physical. And one of the funny things too about the very first play from line of scrimmage, I thought, it's gotten to be, and it happened in the state championship game too. Whenever Jalewis breaks on a big play, whether it's running a kickoff back or in this situation, 81-yard touchdown, one of our players catch up with him kind of as like almost as a sidekick or tail gun or whatever, The Macon County players gave up. None of them could catch him. But Kendall Sims caught up with him. Kendall, one of our own players, caught up with him, and Jalewis. So that makes you feel good that nobody on their team could catch Jalewis, but there was somebody on our team that caught up with him.
That's
and
right.
So that's the kind of things you hear. People don't realize the deceptive speed that Sly has this year. In addition to, starting to really step up their physical game also.
Hey, if you're just now joining us, make sure you log in on our YouTube page and join us on the live chat. You can interact with us here today on the live chat, Integrity Sports Podcast. Scott, the Wildcats will travel to Chattahoochee County tomorrow night. Chattahoochee is 0-5 coming into the game tomorrow night. Their offense has been shut out 3 times in 5 games. Pelham Walnut Grove, and Manchester all held them scoreless. They've scored 13 points against North Clayton and 14 against Taylor County. If you look at key players for Chatco, their leading rusher is Akeem DeMunn. He averages 59 yards per game. Their leading receiver is Jaquan Floyd. He only averages 20 yards a game. Scott, I think we need to put this one to bed early.
Definitely. It looks like, like you said, Chatco's been shut out 3 times. I'm glad to see that, Walnut Grove has come a long way from Little House on the Prairie and now has a football team.
That's right.
And so I'm glad they finally have gotten on track there. But my Taylor County contacts, they've played them this year, and they kind of give me a little scouting report on it. They just said, what we're going to see is probably a one-dimensional offense. They're struggling on their defense, and all single A teams go through this. I mean,
Right.
it's cyclical, and you don't want to kick a team when they're down. I mean, I like the coach. I've had some conversations with the coach at Chattahoochee County, and I like them. It's just they're in a down year, and this is but unfortunately, what happens to sometimes the teams like Sly County who will get up for the early counties and get up for the Macon counties and get up for the Manchesters, the players just sit there and go, we can take the night off, and that's not the mindset we need to have. We need to get off that bus. There's a 47, Sly's a 47-point favorite. That spread needs to be there by halftime.
Absolutely.
And that's need to be the goal, that the spread is going to be there by halftime. And then on any given Friday, anything can happen. And they do have a rather large player over there who's probably going to be worth the price of admission to see. I told you he looked like a Philistine when I saw him on some of the film.
He's a Goliath's great grandson.
Hey, let me tell you, he will. You will not need to know who I'm talking about when you see them come out tomorrow. So there'll be no question on that. But like I said, they're not as bad as Central Thomaston. They're not as good, obviously, as the other teams. But we need to treat them with the same respect and know that we cannot play to the level of our competition, because that's how upsets happen, and they get published every single week in that paper that you and I get, that email we get at 4:00 in the morning every
That's
morning.
right.
So it's right there in front of our face, and there's 5 or 6 of them every week that teams went in there thinking they were going to win and walked out with a loss.
All South Appraisals is your trusted partner in appraising rural properties in our area. All South Appraisals can handle all types of property, whether it's agricultural, commercial, or residential, from vast farmlands to that charming country home. They specialize in rural properties that define the heart and soul of our community. Their commitment to accuracy and their dedication to understanding the unique nuances of rural properties is what sets them apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail to provide you with an appraisal that you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent or broker, or a property owner, give All South Appraisals a call at 478-837-3818. Again, that number, All South Appraisals, 478-837-3818. We move now to the Sumter County Panthers. Sumter County was open last week. Their current record is 2-2. The Sumter County Panther defense had another week to rest and heal. Not sure if that was a good thing, Scott, or not, because boy, they were on a roll.
Oh yeah. They've got the momentum, and they hopefully Coach Will Rogers was able to keep the fire burning over there on the off week.
This week they'll take on the Cook High Hornets. Cook High comes in the contest with a record of 2 wins and 2 losses. Their 2 wins are over Pelham and Jeff Davis. Their 2 losses comes at the hands of Valdosta High School and Clinch County High School, both of which are very good teams. Cook comes into the game tomorrow night with a very good rushing attack led by running back Keyshawn McKeever, who averages more than 130 yards per game on the ground. And they're not just a rushing team. Their quarterback, Drew Folsom, has already thrown for 5 touchdowns in their first 4 games, and he's not afraid to run it. If the defensive backs get too far downfield with receivers, he'll take off and run it. He'll have a couple of targets. Nyshawn Wallace has 2 receiving touchdowns on the season, as does his partner, Rashad Tippins. He also has a couple of touchdowns. On defense, Cook High is led by middle linebacker Alden Lester. Their 2 outside linebackers have 9 and 8 tackles respectively. So Cook's linebacking core looks to be the strength of their defense. For the Panthers, quarterback Anthony Tyson has put together the best 2 games of his career going into the contest. Running back Jakari Wise and his partner Quayshawn Tatum have also been carrying the load for the Panthers. And Coach Will Rogers' team, they've just been on a roll, and they're hoping that the train will stay on the track. We mention this every week, and every week it gets a little better. A.J. Kearse now fully healthy, so that certainly helps the Panthers, providing some depth. It's homecoming week for Sumter County this week. They've got a big tailgate party planned for tomorrow night. It ought to be a big night for the Panthers, Scott.
You know, Tim, I've been a Coach Will Rogers fan since our first show. I did not think he was going to turn it around as quickly as he has, but thankful that he had. And you know, and after last week's interview on this show with Anthony Tyson, I'm an Anthony Tyson fan.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny. I got home that night, and my wife is one of our viewers, and she made the comment as I got home. She said Anthony Tyson did a great job.
He did.
So, you know, I mean, that was so, you know, it's always good when these kids, we see what they do on the field, but when you take the helmet off and the mask and the pads and everything, it's good to kind of get them to know as a person. And that's what, you know, you're allowing a lot of times for these young men to do. And Anthony, I think, got a lot more fans last week when he appeared on here. But one thing we've been screaming: community involvement, community involvement. That's what's going to turn it. The coaches can do all they can do. The players can do all they can do. But how about a tailgate for Sumter County that somebody has decided that they need to get that ball rolling and do that? And that's the community involvement we're talking about. That's what we've been screaming about. I feel like that if Tyson and Weiss, Tatum and Kearse, they are all firing on all cylinders, it's going to be a great game. Cook still has a huge question mark because they got beat by some good teams, but they beat some not so good teams.
Right.
So the coach, if you remember last year, Cook County was kind of the surprise team one of the surprise teams in our area. I think they were afraid that they were going to lose their coach. They were doing so well there at one time, but they're a big question mark, and I think this game will clear up whether Sumter County this is going to be a rebuilding year, or this could be a playoff year.
Right.
We'll know this time next week. This Cook County game will let us know if their goals need to be, we need to continue to right this ship, or we need to start setting some goals and making it for the playoffs.
When you look at teams that have been battle tested in our area, Cook High and Sumter County, I would put in that category. Sumter County certainly started with a great team in Houston County, and Cook, of course, has played perennial power Valdosta. And we know Clinch County, even though they're a division below Cook, Clinch County is always a perennial power.
They've always stacked. I saw them play this year. They're big up front. They're big and strong. And teams like Clinch, we cannot emphasize enough, a team that's used to winning has a huge advantage regardless what kind of year they're having.
Yeah.
You know, they're expected to win. It's been bred in generations there. And so, you know, it's tough it's a psychological advantage that a lot of the kids have when they step on that field and thinking they're going to win, regardless what their record says.
We're going to hold off on the prediction until the end of the show, but let's just say this. We hope Coach Will Rogers and the Panthers keep this train moving down the track. Today's show is also brought to you in part by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Marty is located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. You can reach them at 928-3686 or get in touch with Marty or any of his staff through Facebook. Go by and see them, and they'd be glad to discuss the insurance savings you can receive. They even have in their office the life-size cutout of State Farm Jake from their TV commercials. Go by and take a photo with Jake. Also want to say job well done to Marty McDonald for his player of the week each week at all 3 of our schools as he's giving out T-shirts. That's been a big hit as well. Go by and see Marty McDonald and thank him for being a sponsor on the Integrity Sports Podcast. Finally, we're going to talk about Southland Academy. The Raiders had an open week last week. They come into the contest with a record of 2 wins and 3 losses. They'll play Terrell Academy at Harvey Simpson Stadium on the campus of Southland Academy. Kickoff tomorrow night is at 7:30. They've picked up wins. Terrell Academy comes in at 4-0. They've picked up wins over Southwest Georgia Academy, Piedmont Academy, Patala Charter, and Deerfield Windsor. Southland fans, here's what you need to be aware of with Terrell Academy. They're going to be led by quarterback Will Massey. Now think about this. They've only played 4 games. They're 4-0. Will Massey already has 12 touchdown passes in those 4 games. So he's having a stellar season. Going to have to put the stop on Will Massey. Hill Murdoch seems to be his favorite receiver. Murdoch's averaging about 100 yards per game receiving. I think it was 99.7 yards receiving. So you got to stick close to Will Murdoch on the outside. They've also got a big receiver, Scott. We saw him in baseball last year on the mound, and he's a big guy named Quindon Wright. He's a threat every time he touches the football. Ty Thomas leads the rushing attack for the Eagles, 51 yards per game. So if I'm looking at this just on paper, Scott, and I see that this guy, Murdoch or Massey, is throwing for 12 touchdowns in 4 games, but their leading rusher is only averaging 51 yards per game, I'm thinking I'm going into this contest ready to stop the pass.
That's exactly right. We'll see how the defense stacks up against that. If they plan for that, and nothing can stop a passing attack quicker than an interception. So
That's right.
Hopefully they can. I think Perry Usher's one of the defensive backs, and he hopefully he can pick some off. There's a couple others names.
Mac McMichael, I think, had a couple of interceptions.
Right. So I'm looking for those guys to have some big games against this quarterback.
On defense, Terrell Academy is led by Bryce Peachy. He's a big, strong defensive tackle. He's averaging 7 tackles per game. One of their cornerbacks, Reagan Harrell, he's averaging 6 tackles per game, as is the middle linebacker, Mills Haynes. So going to be a tough test for the Raiders. They'll need to come in as healthy as they possibly can up front. We've mentioned for several weeks on this broadcast that they've lost the 2 Say kids for a couple of games, and then their center, Tom Hart, went down with injury. I think 2 of those guys, from what I've been told, will be back this week. So hopefully Southland will be a little better up front than they've been the last few weeks. But Terrell is big and strong on both lines of scrimmage. Southland's quarterback, Bank Simmons, he'll need to get the ball out of his hands quickly and get it to his playmakers in space, give them some open space opportunities. Running back Trey Sellers, he'll need to be able to find some holes to keep the pressure off of Simmons. Scott, watching film on Terrell Academy this week, they don't throw a lot of deep balls. Looks to me like they throw a lot of the 4 to 10 yard passes and let their receivers and their backs out of the backfield make the big yards.
And I'm sure that the Southland coaches have seen that also, and they've got a strategy to defend against that. You cannot miss tackles in a situation like that, because that's what happens. Usually, sometimes there's one, maybe two people out there that can make a tackle on some of those slants or those bubble screens or something like that. If they get going, it's a big gain. So you got to have some good, clean, open field tackling on things like that.
One thing that's impressed me about the Raiders all year long, even in their losses, they've kept it close. They fought hard all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in 2 of their losses, had a real chance to win it at the end.
Right.
So don't let the 2-3 record allow you to think Southland's just way down. Because that's not the truth.
No. And that's the thing is when you get these 1-score games, that pendulum could just as easily swing the other direction. I think about the game that you and I have talked about time and time again. For Sly was the Blakely County game. That game could have gone either way at any minute. I mean, the last 3 or 4 minutes of that game could have easily gone in the L column for Sly, but thankfully they squeezed a win out of it.
I want to say hello to Kerry Claiborne. He is the PA announcer for the Gwinnett Stripers as well as the Buford Wolves. Kerry always chiming in on our podcast on the live chat. You can do that too. just go to Facebook or to our YouTube page and type in, let us know that you're listening.
Is Buford playing football this year? I hadn't heard a whole lot about them.
If you hadn't, you've been living under a rock.
I just was curious. I didn't know if they had fielded a team this year or not. I didn't know.
Buford is really good. Hey, Southland Academy, make sure if you're one of the linebackers or the defensive backs that you keep everything in front of you this week. I don't think Terrell's going to try to throw it deep on you, but they are going to dump some stuff short, and you got to keep the play in front of you. Will Godwin and Perry Usher, Derek Lane, some of those guys are going to have to put some pressure on their quarterback. That'll keep the pressure off of that defensive backfield. One Digital is a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial services, and HR platforms provide personalized tech-enabled solutions for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees by fusing together customized solutions that address employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact Will Peterson at 229-347-6289. Again, that's One Digital, 229-347-6289. One Digital is proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Scott, we've got several other games in our area. Each week, we like to at least mention them and dedicate about a minute to each one of them. Let's start with Marion County. Marion County lost to previously winless Greenville this past week, 24-21. They're going to travel to Central of Talbotton this week. But, Scott, that one surprised me last week.
Well, that it did a lot of us because, we were getting the score reports. And I saw one of their coaches at Walmart after church on Sunday. So I was able to talk to him a little bit. And I just asked him, I said, what happened? And he said, well, their quarterback is very good. Greenville's quarterback is very good in that he ran a lot of just draws right up the middle. And when they would, plan for that, a lot of times they would just, do little jet sweeps on the outside, and it just ate them up with those things and stayed close. And like I said, the team like Greenville, you let them stay close with you, and anything can happen any Friday night. And I mean, I shared that with some of my Taylor County friends because they're playing Greenville this week. And but this week, Central Talbotton, Marion County, Marion is picked for 38 points over Central. If I was a betting man, I'd take every bit of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, Marion County, Central of Talbotton. Got to go with Marion in a big way on that one. Scott, you just mentioned Taylor County throttled Central of Talbotton last week. They've got to travel to Greenville this week, and now Greenville on a winning streak. They better enjoy this week because Taylor, after this week, will have to face Schley, Macon County, and Manchester in 3 of their final 4 regular season games. What do you think about Taylor County and Central of Talbot?
Yeah, Taylor does have the last half of their season is a gauntlet. But one of the things that came out, by the way, Greenville is a 1-point favorite over Taylor. Yeah, over Taylor. So, and that may be because they're playing in Greenville. I mean, anytime you get less than 3 points, the home team's going to get 3 points regardless if it's a toss up or something like that. So that's the only thing I can figure the reason that pendulum swung that way. But one of the things that came out of the Central game, a lot of times people think, well, what do you get out of when you play Central, something like that? You let some of your younger guys play and things like that. But Coach Byram really took advantage of this situation because he's got Cameron Lawhorn there as a senior leader. He's got DJ Jenkins as a strong senior leader, and Cameron's hard. I've known him since he was 6 years. I mean, I've known him since his birth, really, but I've known him as a football player since he was 6, 7 years old. His heart's on defense. He's a defensive player. He's a linebacker. That's what he is. And he's had to play quarterback just because he's a senior and a good athlete. And it's hurt his defense because he doesn't have the full strength. I mean, anytime you got a quarterback that's got to go both ways in high school football, it's going to take away from something.
Yeah.
Well, this kid named Braden Ellison, who I've known once again his whole life, he's a 3-sport athlete, and really of his 3 sports, he's probably best at baseball in my opinion. But he's a pretty doggone good football and basketball player. Braden is this big, strong sophomore kid who they put him in at quarterback at Central Talbotton. He showed flashes of greatness against Talbotton, And I think you're going to probably start seeing him as their quarterback a lot more in the rest of the season. I mean, they'll run Cameron in there probably in a Wildcat, or they'll run him in there for some other, since he has been quarterback, that gives them the option. But I don't think you'll see Cameron playing as much quarterback in these last few games. You'll see Braden setting the pace for him to be the next quarterback for Taylor County the next 2 years. Kamani Sanders for Taylor, he's trying to get himself to be their lockdown corner, and he's doing it. He's got a lot of interceptions, doing a great job. He got another touchdown receiving against Central Tarleton. Chan Lumpkin, real tall young man. He's doing a great job as a receiver. I mentioned DJ Jenkins. He is a lightning fast running back and linebacker. Plays just way above his head all the time, just 100% effort all the time. And DJ, DJ Thomas. He's fullback. He's the big punishing fullback they've got. So you're going to get 2 doses that way. And AJ Towns at defensive end. He's a big sophomore, about 6'3". He's really showing that he can play that position. So Taylor's got some senior leaders. They got some sophomores that are stepping up, and they got the 8th, 9th graders coming up. So yeah, I mean, it's not this season is going to be a good turnaround season for them, I think.
Definitely Taylor County over Central of Tarleton.
Yeah. Well, that was last week. They got Greenville this week.
Oh, Greenville.
That's okay. They got Greenville.
Yeah.
I think they'll beat Greenville. I think they probably saw that what their strengths were against Marion, and they've planned accordingly.
Lee County with a big one. They'll travel to Freedom Field down in Warner Robins. They've got to take on Houston County. There's 2 big games in our area this week. This is one of them.
They're going to play at Freedom Field over in Warner Robins, so that gives Houston County a slight advantage. Houston County is an 11-point favorite in this game. I would not have predicted that. But when you got a quarterback like Hill, his receivers are doing well. Lee County's had a little bit of turmoil this season. That's no secret to that. And they're playing Houston County's. I don't know of any key injuries that they have or anything. So essentially, you've got 2 former baseball or 2 current baseball schools squaring off. We've found football teams over the past few years. But I'm going to go with Lee County on this one in the upset, just simply because I think that Lee County has put a lot of that stuff behind them and going to go forward and are laser focused on what their goals are going to be.
I'm going to agree 100% with you. I think Lee County travels down to Freedom Field and puts it on Houston County this week. We'll see how that turns out and let you know next week. Crisp County at 3-2. They're going to host Daugherty County also at 3-2. What do you think about this one?
Both teams past powerhouses, not so much this year. Crisp was 11-point favorite, and after their loss at Northside on the football field and subsequent over-the-top rope battle royal at the end, I think that they're going to get it together, and Crisp is going to win this one at home this week.
It's homecoming at Crisp County High School. I'm going to go with you on that one, Scott. I think Crisp County gets past Daugherty over at the Cougar Den. Deerfield Windsor at 1-4 plays host to Stratford Academy. Stratford comes in from Macon with a record of 3-2.
Stratford, their only 2 losses are to Pacelli and Brookstone.
Right.
So as long as they stay out of Columbus city limits, maybe they'll be all right. But they've got a pretty good quarterback. They're a 23-point favorite. Deerfield Windsor's on the ropes this year. They lost to Terrell Academy, as we've already talked about for the first time since 2001 in 22 years. So Deerfield Windsor is not exactly where they want to be right now. So I feel like Stratford's going to mop the floor with them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big spread there. Stratford Academy, we're going to pick over Deerfield.
I want to interrupt you. Do we want to do Manchester and Macon now?
We do.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Did you have that?
I
did. Okay, I didn't get the updated script. I'm sorry.
Right.
And we didn't do our rough, so I'm sorry. I didn't want us to go to that and miss that. Okay.
We got 2 big games we said in the area. One of them being Houston County and Lee County. I think the next one is Macon County versus Manchester. That's going to be in Montezuma. Scott, that ought to be a battle.
We hope these 2 teams are playing for second place.
Right.
That's what we're hoping are. As a Sly County fan, I mean, I got a bunch of friends in Macon County, and I would under normal circumstances would be rooting for Macon County, but I'm rooting for Manchester for this main reason. Manchester wins out, Sly wins out. We got another 1v2 matchup in a couple 3 weeks.
Right.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
And so That's the only reason I'm tipping my hat to Manchester in this one. Macon County's a 6-point favorite, so if Manchester wins in Montezuma, it will definitely be an upset. But I think that that Manchester can do it. My feelings won't be hurt if Macon County wins, because probably my heart of hearts, that's who I want to win. But the reality is, for the position for Sly, I want Manchester to win.
After watching Macon County last week, I think Macon County is good up front on both sides of the ball. I don't know that they'll be able to handle Manchester's RPO offense. They do throw the ball a little bit, and I think Manchester picks up the win there. With that, it's time for the Booger Bottom Wrap-Up Show, brought to you by the Booger Bottom Yacht Club. They've been voted numerous times as the best burger in Sumter County. They are located on Lamar Road on the banks of Lake Blackshear. Go by there and see Miss Sue, Rick, Russ, or Renee, or any of their fine staff, and let Booger Bottom wrap you up with the best burger in Sumter County. Scott, it's time to get to our 3 focus schools and our predictions. Sly County travels to Chatco. This one should be an easy one to pick.
It is. I think so. I think that the one thing we need to watch out for is we make sure that Sly County has a big lead going into halftime. Otherwise, there are going to be some hurt feelings coming out of the locker room. I think. I mean, that's just the cold hard reality of it. The boys will get their ears pinned back pretty good by the coaches, so they need to go out there and take this game seriously to at least have a relaxing halftime experience.
Sumter County. Sumter County is in Region 1, Class 2A. I think this is their first region game of the year as they host the Cook High Hornets. This region's wide open, and Scott, I'm becoming a believer in what Will Rogers is doing over there.
It is. This game is going to peel the scales off a lot of our eyes, and we're going to find out then, is this going to be just Will Rogers' turnaround season, or is this going to be Will Rogers' first march to the playoffs for the Sumter County Panthers? So I feel like Sumter County, like I said, is a I think they're a 4-point favorite, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with them. I think they've had 2 weeks to prepare. I don't think that Will Rogers has wasted that time, and I think that having Kearse and a lot of those other guys back at full speed is going to tip the scales for them, regardless of where they're playing.
Anthony Tyson, we appreciate you coming on the show here last week. Vincent Keir, I'm calling you out. I've been trying to get AJ on here. Maybe you'll bring him by one day. You guys have started turning this thing around. And Coach Rogers, we're believers in you. It looks great that the community's got a big tailgate coming up, and love to see the community support of the Panthers. I, too, am going to go with Scott, and we're going to go with the Panthers this week. We think they are going to be the favorite and beat the Cook High Hornets. So good luck to all the fans and players and coaches of the Sumter County Panthers. I want to say hello to our friend George Torbert. George is dropping in on the live chat, as well as Tommy Eubanks. Glad to have Tommy Eubanks checking in.
What are they saying? What got any questions we need to address?
Let's see what Tommy is saying there. Can you read it, Scott?
Tommy says, I know it's a high school sports show, but can we get Scott's thoughts on Taylor Swift using Kelsey's platform to the NFL to increase her record sales? It's shameless.
Yeah.
It's shameless. I mean, you got somebody like Taylor Swift who can barely fill an arena right now. She's on the verge of economic collapse, and she's piggybacking on the popularity of an NFL player just to get her career back off the ground.
And Scott, what did George say there?
George says, how many cameras are y'all using?
We got to use a lot, George.
Yeah, I mean, this is not some rinky-dink little one-camera show. Come on now, we're on the verge of pyrotechnics over here in the next few weeks. So hang in there. We got just a few things to work out with Anthony and the fire marshal, and we'll be adding pyrotechnics before too long.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it. Scott, we got one more to pick. That's Southland. They're in District 3, Class AAA of the GIAA. Terrell Academy sits atop of that district after Valwood's loss last week. Can Southland Academy pull off the upset?
Excuse me. If you'll notice, I write my choices down, and when I was doing my show prep, I wrote Terrell County down as the win. And then as I was coming in here today, I had a burning bush experience, and I changed it to Southland. I believe Southland's
Really?
I do. I think that Southland's getting healthy. I think they're going to have it at home. I think Terrell County, maybe they'll catch them off their euphoric win against Deerfield Windsor, and perhaps have a hard time getting up for this game against Southland tomorrow night. Maybe the control of the yards after catch and the defensive backs will get some interceptions tomorrow night and reverse the luck for the Southland right here just past the midpoint of the season.
I do think that Southland is going to get better. I think Southland's going to be a playoff team, but I don't think it's going to start tomorrow night. I think Terrell Academy has a few too many weapons. I hope I'm wrong. Raider fans, go out and help this team get a big win tomorrow. But if I look at the stats and I look at who is healthy, who's not right now, I think Terrell Academy probably going to be a little too much for the Raiders tomorrow night. Scott, it's been a good show. We've had my brother John and his wife Betsy here tonight. We've had several folks that have come in the room and waved at us as they started to leave, but it's been a good show. Let me get your final thoughts on the upcoming week of high school football.
I'm gonna clear up George's comment. He did text me. He said that the cameras was adding 30 pounds. That's why his little comment was how many cameras, because he's such the picture of health himself.
Really
yeah,
is,
that's But anyway, my final thoughts are, this is a lot of fun. We're having a good time. I'm so thankful that your friend up in Atlanta for Buford is checking in with us and critiquing us and
there's his comment. He says, "Hey, now the real show begins."
Well, for them, I tell you what, I mean, Buford started off, their real show started the first game of the season when they played that team out of Baltimore.
That's right.
But and beat them. And so, but I tell you, Tim, it's just if you're sitting at home Friday night doing nothing but on your phone or just waste time, go and take in one of these local high school football games. The schools need the money. You need the entertainment. You need the social aspect of it. Get out there and have fun. Just pick one random. And there's plenty of home games. There's plenty of, I think, like last Friday night, I'm sure the Macon County folks left. They weren't too happy, but they felt like they got their money's worth. They saw some good football.
I think you're right. We want to thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. We certainly want to thank our sponsors, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal, Marty McDonald State Farm, All South Appraisals, One Digital Solutions, and the Booger Bottom Yacht Club. Of course, it's always nice to be here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria. We thank Anthony and his staff. Here's what we need you to do, folks. Scott and I have been on social media a lot trying to pump our YouTube page. If you're watching this tonight on whatever platform, make sure and go to our YouTube page. Just log on to any YouTube, whether that's on your computer, on your television, on your phone. Type in Integrity Sports Podcast, and once you get to our page, hit the subscribe button. It's really important for us to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark by the end of this high school football season, and you can help us by doing that. We'll also be available on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and several other social media and podcast platforms. Scott, we had almost 1,800 viewers this past week. So in the past 3 weeks, we surpassed the 2,000 mark. Then we were at 17 something. And this week, coming into tonight, we were at 1,796. So on average, I would say 1,700 plus are watching the show. And guys, we want to thank you for that. That means a lot to us. Please let your friends know about this and make plans to be with us on a Thursday night. Come in and eat supper with us here at the Roman Oven and watch the Integrity Sports Podcast. For my friend Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.